I didn't expect my father to shove my son at a dinner table, but he did it like it meant nothing. The sound of the chair hitting the floor still plays in my head. Nobody moved for a second.
Not even me.
My name is Daniel Mercer, and that night we were at my parents' house in Ohio for what was supposed to be a normal family dinner. Nothing about it felt off when we walked in. My son Jacob was excited, holding my hand, talking nonstop about school and a science project he had been working on for days. My mom was already setting the table like she always does, careful and quiet. My dad was sitting at the head of the table, like he always is, acting like that chair belonged to him more than anyone else in the world. For a while, everything was just normal. Plates, small talk, pretending nothing in our family was complicated. I remember thinking maybe this would be an easier night. Jacob pulled a chair closer so he could sit near his grandfather. He wasn't being disrespectful. He just wanted to show him something on his school folder. That's when my dad's face changed. Not loud, not angry, just cold, like something in him shut off. Before I could even react, he shoved the chair hard. Jacob fell to the floor. The room went completely silent. My dad said, "This table's for family. Go away." My mom froze with a plate in her hands. I could feel my pulse in my throat, but I didn't move. I helped my son up slowly, keeping my voice calm even though everything inside me was shaking. And then I said 5 words that made the whole room shift. My dad didn't blink, but something in him already knew this wasn't over. After that night, nobody at the table said a single word for a long time.
Not even my mom.
She just kept staring at the plate she was holding like she forgot what to do with it. I guided Jacob away from the table and sat him in the living room. He said he was fine, but I could see his hands shaking. That bothered me more than anything. Not the fall. Not the noise. The way he tried to act like it didn't hurt. I went back to the kitchen alone. My dad was already back in his chair like nothing happened. That was his thing, resetting reality like he owned it. Growing up, I learned not to challenge him in public. He had this way of controlling a room without raising his voice. People just adjusted around him. Even family. My mom always said, "That's just how your father is." Like it explained everything. Like it fixed anything. I used to believe her. I really did. I spent years trying to keep peace in that house, avoiding arguments, picking silence over confrontation.
It felt easier that way.
But seeing Jacob on the floor changed something in me. Not loud, not dramatic, just quiet. Like a line got crossed I couldn't uncross anymore. Dinner continued like we were all pretending. Forks moving, plates shifting. Nobody mentioning what happened. That silence felt heavier than shouting. My dad even asked me about work like nothing had happened. Like he hadn't just pushed my son to the ground 5 minutes earlier. That's when I noticed something else. My mom wouldn't look at me. Not even once. And that's when I started realizing this wasn't just about what happened at the table. There was something deeper in that silence I hadn't seen before. Something I was suddenly not sure I ever understood about my own family. We left my parents' house that night without another word about what happened. Jacob sat in the back seat staring out the window the whole drive home. At first, I thought maybe I should say something to him. Explain it. Fix it. But I didn't know what to say that wouldn't make it worse. So I stayed quiet. That silence followed us for days. Jacob didn't bring it up, but he also didn't act like himself. He got quieter, more careful, like he was trying to avoid doing anything that might upset someone without knowing the rules. That bothered me more than anything my father did. The next day, my mom called. She acted normal on the phone. Too normal. Asked if Jacob was okay, like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't been standing 5 feet away when it did. I kept my voice calm and said he was fine. That was all I gave her. But something felt off about that call. I couldn't explain it at first. Just a feeling in my gut that she wasn't calling just to check on Jacob. Later that week, I stopped by my parents' house alone. I told myself it was just to talk. Keep things from getting worse. My dad opened the door like nothing had happened. That same calm face. That same controlled voice. Inside, my mom looked nervous. Not guilty exactly. Just uncomfortable. Like she was waiting for something to happen. My dad offered coffee like it was a normal visit. That's when I started noticing small things. The way my mom kept glancing at him before answering questions. The way she stopped herself mid-sentence, more than once. And my dad, he was too calm. Too sure. Like he believed the situation was already handled. But I wasn't there to argue.
Not yet.
I was there to watch. To listen. To understand what I missed that night. And the more I stayed, the more I realized something wasn't just wrong, it was being carefully hidden. I didn't plan on finding out the truth that day. But sometimes people slip up when they think you're still the same obedient son you used to be. I was in my parents' living room, pretending to look through old photo albums while they talked in the kitchen. My dad's voice carried like always, steady, controlled, like he never doubted himself. My mom's was quieter, careful. That's when I noticed a folder tucked behind some papers in a drawer. Not hidden well, just overlooked. Inside were old medical records. Some of them had my name on them. From when I was a kid. I didn't remember half of what I was reading at first. Concussion. Emergency visit. Notes about a fall. A family incident. Then I saw the date. I was 8 years old. I remember falling once. Or thinking I fell. But I also remember being told not to talk about it. That it was nothing. My hand started to feel cold. I kept reading. There were patterns. More than one visit. More than one accident. All explained away the same way. Then I found a note from a doctor asking if someone at home needed to be evaluated. The next page was missing. Just gone. That's when my mom walked in. She saw the folder in my hands. And she froze. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. I just asked her what I was looking at. She looked at the floor before she answered. Not at me. Never at me. And that's when she said it. Quiet. Careful. Like she'd said it before in her head 100 times. He didn't change, Daniel. He just never stopped. I didn't speak right away. Because suddenly, Jacob falling at that table didn't feel like the first time anymore. It felt like history repeating itself. And I wasn't sure how far back it really went. I left my parents' house that day, without saying goodbye. I just walked out while my mom was still standing in the kitchen doorway, not following me, not stopping me. The drive home felt different. Like the road itself had changed. Jacob was at school, but I couldn't stop thinking about him sitting in that chair, being pushed like he didn't matter. It wasn't just anger anymore. It was something heavier. Something focused. That night, I didn't sleep. I just sat at the kitchen table with the same folder I had taken pictures of, going over every page again and again, trying to make it all make sense in my head. There were too many gaps. Too many things that didn't line up with the story I grew up believing. My dad was always strict, sure. But there's a difference between strict and what I was starting to see. Around 2 a.m., I made a decision. I wasn't going back to confront him. Not yet. That would have been useless. If I did anything, I needed proof. Not memories. Not feelings. Proof. So I started pulling everything I could find. Old family emails. School records. Even reaching out to an old neighbor I hadn't spoken to in years. The more I dug, the more I noticed something disturbing. People avoided talking about my dad directly. They would answer questions, but carefully, like they were stepping around something sharp. One message I got back said, "Your father always had a way of controlling how things looked from the outside." That line stuck with me, because I started realizing something simple. This wasn't just about one moment at a dinner table. It was about how many moments had already been buried before I even understood what I was looking at. And I was starting to feel like I had only seen the surface of it, not the whole structure underneath. The next step wasn't emotional for me. It was methodical. I stopped trying to understand my dad and started documenting him instead. I made a folder on my laptop and labeled it simple. Incidents. Every memory I could verify. Every date I could match with records. Every message I could recover. I wasn't guessing anymore. I was building a timeline. The strangest part was how many small things suddenly mattered. A bruise I had as a kid that was never explained. A school meeting my mom insisted I forget about. People who used to be close to our family, but slowly disappeared. I reached out to one of them again. An old family friend named Mark who used to come over often when I was young. At first, he didn't want to talk. Just said, "I don't really stay involved with your father anymore." But when I told him I wasn't asking out of curiosity, something changed. He went quiet for a long time before saying, "Your dad has always had a way of making people doubt what they saw." That hit me harder than I expected, because I remembered that. I remembered questioning myself growing up, wondering if I was exaggerating things, wondering why no one else reacted the way I did. That night, I also checked something else. I requested old school records for Jacob's file, just routine paperwork, or so I told the office. What I found wasn't dramatic on its own. Just notes, teacher comments, observations about behavior. Nothing alarming on the surface. But I started noticing patterns. Words like withdrawn after visits with family, reluctant to discuss home. Nothing that stood alone. But together, they formed something I couldn't ignore anymore. I didn't have a full picture yet, not even close. But I had enough to know I wasn't imagining the weight of it. And I started preparing for the moment I would have to show it to someone who couldn't dismiss it. I didn't tell my dad I was coming back. I just showed up at his house with a manila folder and a calm face. This time, I wasn't invited inside right away. He opened the door slowly, like he already didn't like seeing me there. My mom was behind him, standing a little too still again. I said I needed to talk. Alone. He let me in. That was his first mistake. We sat in the living room. Same place I grew up sitting as a kid, trying not to say the wrong thing. But this time I wasn't a kid anymore. I placed the folder on the table between us. Didn't slide it. Didn't throw it. Just set it down. He looked at it but didn't open it right away. That calm expression stayed on his face longer than it should have. So I spoke first. I told him I knew about the records. The incidents. The patterns. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. For the first time, I saw something shift in him. Not fear. Not guilt. Something closer to irritation. Like I was wasting his time. He finally opened the folder. Flipped through it slowly. Too slowly. Then he said, "You're digging into things you don't understand." My mom tried to speak from the hallway, but he raised his hand slightly and she stopped.
Just like that.
That small moment said more than anything else I had learned so far. I asked him directly about Jacob, about the table, about everything. He leaned back like I was talking about something minor, like it was all exaggerated. That's when I realized something important. He didn't think he had done anything wrong, not even a little. And that was the most dangerous part of him. Because people like that don't admit truth easily. They force others to prove it instead. And I had just handed him the chance to respond.